Hi, Kim Parkinson here, and on this episode of Keep Creating, we're going to be playing with markers. From dye-based markers to solvent-based markers, from stamping with markers and coloring in with markers, we're going to be having fun all day. And you know what else? We have a special guest. Catherine Scanlon will be back, and she'll be showing us how to use markers in our art journals.
We had been called up for the first time. Wildfires were getting close to homes. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is.
Be there for your community at NationalGuard.com.
Can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Welcome to Keep Creating. I have Catherine Scanlon from Catherine Scanlon Designs back with me today, and we are going to go over the differences of markers. So the first thing you need to do with markers is stamp.
Correct.
And Catherine has a bunch of stamps that she wants to show us how to use today. So what's your first step in stamping?
I picked the right ink.
Oh,
Having the right ink is really, really important. We talked earlier about the right kind of marker to use when you're doing your lettering. Same situation when you're using inks. The waterproof permanent inks are going to work for the type of markers that I use, but the markers that you use require a different type of ink.
that's right. So you're going to be using archival ink, jet black. You can also use a StazOn for yours as well. But I need to use Memento with a solvent. So I have a solvent marker that I'm going to show you how to use today, but I need to use dye.
Do you know why you can't use the solvent-based markers with the permanent inks?
I do. A solvent and a solvent erase each other.
It creates a total disaster.
And water, or dye-based, and water,
Creates a total disaster.
that's why they make different ones.
So it's really important to have the right ink with the right medium. And Kim knows everything there is to know about ink.
I try.
So when I'm getting ready to stamp on an art journal page, I like to have a little bit of a test stamp. There are a couple of reasons for that. I want to make sure that my stamp is clean, and I also have a good application of ink. So I'll stamp. This is a pretty big stamp, and I will get a lot of ink on there and just kind of plop it down on the paper. And I will press into it, trying to get some leverage. It's important to work on a firm surface. If you work
Perfect.
on a plastic, like card table or one of those 6-foot plastic tables, your stamp image might get a little bit of a missing spot in the center because the table will give in the center underneath your pressure. So
I've had that happen.
when that happens, I will get out a cutting board and just stamp on the cutting board or on the floor or wherever. Now that I know that my stamping area is fine, my stamp is fine, my ink is inked up nicely, I'm going to stamp on my art journal page.
Now I notice that your stamp looks very dark, and they don't come that way, they come clear. Does it hurt the stamp?
It doesn't hurt the stamp, and it's just because I'm too lazy to clean it.
Actually, I never clean mine either.
I don't. Oops.
I'm too busy creating.
And I went off the page a little bit, and that's totally okay.
So you have this small art journal form, and you've stamped on this. So what if you wanted to do this at a friend's house? What do you do?
I have a little travel journal.
Oh, show us.
Little travel bag. So, and this is great. I can take it on an airplane. I can take it really wherever. And I throw all the stuff that I use for art journaling that I may want to use. I've got some colored pencils, but I'm not going to use that. I've got lots of different things. I like to use These are fun little water brushes. These are jelly roll pens. They're kind of give you a nice bright color with a that's opaque. And I have this piece of acrylic. And this is really important. I bought this at the hardware store. You don't have to have acrylic. I've got all these things. Ooh.
They're flying away. That's okay.
And then my journal. So really, this is all I need.
Excellent. And just all up in a little pencil
a pencil sharpener.
So all you really need, you just need a pretty bag, and you can art journal anywhere.
The bag is the most important part. I mean, I don't have like, I'm not going to say how many handbags I have.
So now we're going to use markers today. This segment's all about different types of markers. What do you got there?
These are Tombow dual tip. They're water soluble, so I can use them with this little dandy, and this is a water brush. And you can also use this with the watercolor palette that we used earlier. Just squeeze it and a little water comes out, and I can pick up color. Now, when I use my markers, I don't necessarily want to marker right on my page because I'm looking for a watercolor look. So I'll take my marker and put a little spot of color on this acrylic plexiglass, really, and pick up the color with a water brush.
Oh.
And then I go in there and just add
your color.
the color. It gives you a nice soft look.
And that's just with a marker. So another opportunity to use a marker in a different way than what normal people would say, hey, I have markers because I'm just going to color it in.
Right. You could go directly to the page if you wanted to. This is sometimes how I do it. And I'll just put a little spot of color right on the page.
And they'll move on that page
and
too.
Move. However, if you don't have good quality paper, sometimes the paper will pill and pick up your image. Oh, there's a little.
So now you're using Tombow. We also have in here, we have the distress markers. Do they work the same way?
They work just the same way.
So distress markers just look like this. Again, they're just very similar to the Tombow ones that she just used. There's another company, Sukaniko, makes Memento markers, correct? And they work the same way. What's neat about these is all of them, I believe, have a brush tip on one end.
Yes, you're right.
And a fine tip on the other end. Now, the fine tip I would use for writing.
However, you want to do the writing last because it's reactive to water. So the minute that hits water, your design is going to spread. And you're not going to be happy with that necessarily, unless that's the look you're going for.
So you have done all your background by just using a palette.
Yep.
And creating color from your palette.
Right.
And your water-based markers.
Yeah, and this is perfect for traveling anywhere. You can do it in the car, you could do it in a restaurant, in the library, sometimes we go to Starbucks and I bring all this stuff and my family plays with their phones and I do this.
It is amazing how kids play with their phones nowadays. So it's nice to have an opportunity to do something else. You could be very creative while waiting for your car to get new tires. Or
in the doctor's office,
Yep.
in the airport. There's really no right or wrong place. Again, art journaling, there's no right or wrong. It's what you just do whatever you feel.
Now, I have used this type of paper, the watercolor paper, before, and sometimes I spray the back to make it stay flat.
That is a very good point. You see how my page is kind of curling up? The reason that's doing that is the fibers are kind of bending. When you spray the back side, those fibers are kind of even out and your page will flatten out. However, you will normally flatten out on its own.
Oh, okay.
At least
some time?
Yeah, when it's dry.
Now,
at least
I
it does
can
for me.
see here, if I hold this up so the camera can see it. So all of this in the background was done with the palette blending. Is that what you call it? We call it palette blending with our Copic markers. Do you call it the same thing?
I don't call it anything.
You just call it watercolor. But you can see this little area right here. I'm not sure if you can see, if you can zoom in right there. That's the little area where she actually drew it right directly on the page. And it is definitely darker,
more
deeper,
vibrant.
much more Just a darker color, deeper color.
And the next thing, so for this next part, I will go right in and color these leaves with the marker right onto the page.
That's kind of a little deceptive. I thought that color was going to come out darker by the color of the tip.
It is, and so you really have to know.
How do you choose the best color? Would you go by this color, the cover on the outside?
You have to know. I mean, I play with these markers a lot, so you know that this is going to be a bright pea green, but you just kind of have to practice with them and play with them. And sometimes I get the wrong color, and I just go with it.
I know that many of the markers have colors on the ends, and that's the color of the marker. For instance, this one's called Spiced Marmalade, and it's definitely got a yellowish tint, yellowish orange tint to it, and it comes out pretty close to that color.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty close. And then
so why don't you show us the glaze pens that you had there?
The Jelly Rolls. Where's my green one? Not that one. Is that the one that went flying?
Could have been.
So I'll use this hot pink one.
So I know that there's a trick with these.
The trick is when you're done using it to take an alcohol wipe and just, there's a little ball in there. So you want to take that ball and swipe it across the alcohol wipe pad, and that will keep it from getting all clogged up.
Okay.
And I like to, these markers are very opaque, meaning you can't see through them. So I like to use them for little bits of bright color here and there.
That is really bright. I also know that if you write slowly with them, they'll be raised just a little bit.
Not all of them.
No.
Not all
Not
of them.
the one you're using today?
I don't think so.
Oh.
This is just a regular neon. Some of them are raised and some of them are puffy. Some of them are glossy. Some of them are shimmery. They're all different. I don't think this one is, but maybe it is.
So you've made a beautiful page again, and it's just very simple, very easy.
It doesn't have to be hard.
Now, when you're done with this page and it's completely dry, you just put it right inside your journal, correct?
Yeah, I will create all the pages, do something on all the pages. And then when they're all full, I'll just put the journal back together again and rebind it.
So some of the other markers that we have are these Faber-Castell Pit Artist Big Brush markers. They only have one end to them, and it's a brush. It's a nice super brush tip. You can actually take a stamp and you can go right on top of it. This is probably a light color to use. Let's try a darker color so you can see it. You can go right on top of this color and you can actually stamp with it. I don't know if I got the whole thing here, but I'm just kind of going over it. And I'm going to stamp right on top of my paper with that. And you can see I have now got a nice purple design that I have stamped.
Aren't those permanent?
They are permanent. So once I've done this, you could actually take all of your watercolor and watercolor with them. So it's just a really neat pen. It's also made with India ink. So it's very similar to the one that you used earlier.
You can also use them just like these.
So brush this right on just like this. And I'm going to use watercolor with this.
Just pick up the water brush.
So we're going to take the water brush and we're going to pick up some of that color. Oh, that's nice. It's really nice and juicy on there. And then you could actually, oh, you know what this would make? This would make nice no-line colors. You ever have those images and people have that black line in the background and you just don't want to see that. It just wants to have no line coloring is what they call it, correct?
I think so.
And so this is a great way to do that. So we're going to pick that color up and we're just going to color with it. This is a nice fine tip.
So you're stamping, you stamped with the same color that you're coloring with.
And so when it's done, it's going to look like there's no line,
That's awesome.
at all.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, that's neat. Oh, look at that. You never know what we'll create. Now, I do know that with this particular one, this particular brush marker, it does like a glossy surface. So if I was to take a multi-medium and I was to color over this, and I could actually get this color to move. I could put this down and I could make it move just a little bit with my finger. You can see I just did that there, and it doesn't do anything, it just stays. But once I've put some multi-medium down and we've let that dry, it will actually move that color around. So let me try a little bit of that right now. This is just any kind of a gloss gel, matte gel, or anything like that will work in this particular technique. So my multi-medium has completely dried. It is just very quick, very quick. So I just have my Faber-Castell Pitt Parkins, again, Pitt markers, and I'm just going to place that on, and I'm going to move that with my pen, with my finger. Isn't that neat? It just kind of has like a nice little movement to it. You can actually...
Can you use the water brush again?
For the color that's on the outside? Yeah, sure. You can actually get it to move. So you could actually do your entire journal page multi-medium over the entire thing, and then use the Pitt pens as your watercolor.
And then if you make a mistake, you could hose it down.
You could hose it down. That would be, actually, I'm not sure the paper would hold up to that much water, but we can give it a try. So I just have another color, and I was just going to move it with a little bit of my my finger.
The water brush lets you blend it better, though.
It does, yeah, actually. And you know what? A lot of people don't like to get messy. I don't mind. I don't mind getting messy.
I haven't spent a day in the studio if I haven't gotten messy.
I know. So you can see it's just kind of given a nice outside blending. Without the multi-medium, it didn't blend at all. You can see that purple line there. That's not what you're looking for.
Right.
But with the multi-medium, you could do a lot. So you could get just a tiny little bottle of multi-medium and put them in that travel pack of yours. I think you should do that.
I could see doing like some journaling on the page and protecting it with the multi-medium and then stamping around and doing lots of color, but the journaling that I might do wouldn't get
ruined at all. And I love the different transition here between where the multi-medium was and where it's not. You can see the difference. It's just kind of moved right off the page, and it's definitely gotten richer and more vibrant once it's moved off the page.
And I also like the fact that it looks like watercolor, but when it dries, the Pitt pens are permanent.
Yes.
So that's a nice bonus of using permanent markers, is you can use them with water, but they'll be permanent when they're dry.
I think you should come down more often, because not only have we learned how to do the coloring with the same color that we are stamping with, but now we're using the water brush with the Pitt markers.
Well, you have water brushes in the store.
We do, we do. I don't get a chance to play as often, mostly because I'm playing with my Copic markers. My Copic markers are the ones that you're going to need to stamp with a Memento ink or any kind of a dye-based ink, although
not all dye-based inks are created the same.
No, and actually I found that this one's the best one.
I have tried many different dye-based inks with the permanent, alcohol-based markers, and Memento is the best. However, I can't get the hang of the Copic markers, so I think you're going to have to show me.
Oh, they're super easy. What I did was I stamped this before just to get us started, and I left a couple of petals uncolored. Now, Copic markers have a unique system to them. They have, this particular ones are sketch. They're oval, and they have a brush on one end and a chisel tip on the other end. Same color goes all the way through. These are all encased inside here, so they're not going to leak out. It's all going to be the same color. They're refillable. The tips you can interchange the tips. They're warranted or guaranteed from the company direct, so you'll never need to buy another one. They are a little pricey. They're more of an artist grade marker, but they're such a wonderful marker to use.
So it had me at the click.
So we have just here a couple of different colors of pink, and I'm just going to go ahead and color all of the image here. So I've done some already, but you can see it's just a simple coloring in the lines. I think if
everybody can color.
If you passed first grade, I think you're all set with this set.
Oh, I guess I might be in trouble.
Now, we have a blending family here. You can see this is RV 63, 66, and 69. I would go ahead and I would take my middle tone color and I would do 3-color blending and start from the inside and kind of flick is what I like to call it. Although I will say in class people are always like, oh, flicking. But it's actually makes such a nice image when you're done. So if you can get the hang of it, that's the hardest part, I think. But I think where you're doing a lot of watercolor, you're probably already doing a lot of that wrist action with your water brush, correct?
I don't understand how you blend these colors together.
How these two colors, this is the RV66 and the RV63. Now I know that sounds very confusing, but RV means red violet. 63 is the next, 6 is one color, and then 3 is the next. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the 63 and you're going to go, I like to push it backwards. Some people like to do circles, some people are lines. It doesn't really make any difference how you color, as long as what you're doing is you're just adding a little bit of pushing action. These markers are not really blending so much as they're kind of pushing each other around a lot. So this color here is going to, it's going to blend, but it's going to push that color.
So it's kind of pushing it back, and so that the lighter color will be more dominant than the darker color.
Exactly. You can see how this is almost transparent where the two colors meet. And you do want a little bit of that. It's probably really hard for the camera to pick up. You do want a little bit of that variation there where it is, you can see those lines, because a flower does have lines like that. So you do want to have a little bit of that showing. That makes it a little bit more realistic.
But this blended part looks a lot better than just the plain flicked part.
Absolutely. That's part of the blending setup that you would do. The first would be to lay down your lightest color, which we did, and then the second would be to take a middle tone color and flick it on. Now you could do 3-color blending, and you could actually even go darker, and when you do that you're going to just do just a teeny bit. Now this color is going to have a harder time to blend because it's such a really dark color, but you'll blend it with that middle tone color, which again we're just going to take and we're going to kind of push that back down and in. You are going to need to take the original color again. I know it's very confusing, but it really isn't. It's just 1, 2, 3, and then 3, 2, 1.
So if you wanted, for instance, a super light, pale flower, you would start out laying in the light color and bring in the middle tone color not as far up. So you would stop here potentially.
Exactly.
And then blend it further down.
And the Copic markers are really great because they have so many different colors in their palette that you could actually get a very, very, very light color. I have an RV40 over here that is so super light. When you use it, it almost looks white. So you could get a really nice light color. See, look, you can't barely see it. It's almost just tinting the paper just a little bit.
What happens if you go outside the lines?
If you go outside the lines, in this particular color, it's not going to matter so much because it's so light. But if you go outside the lines with another color, for instance, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need a blender to push that back in. They call it a blender, but it's not really blending anything. Again, it's a pusher. So you're going to take that color. Did I go outside? I went outside the lines here a little bit, and I'm going to just kind of push that color back underneath the little line in the stamp.
What does all of this marker work do to the paper?
What does it do to the paper?
Does it pill the papers at all?
No, because we're using a special kind of paper. So we're using Copic's blender card paper. That's what we have here in the store. That's the one that I found is the best. There's some other Nina Crest, Solar White, and all that, but that's the one that I have found works the best for our Copics, especially because we have a lot of new people that want to learn a lot about markers. So we like to use that particular kind of paper because it's so forgiving.
Having the right supplies makes all the difference.
It does.
It doesn't matter what type of art or art journaling or stamping, having the right tools for the job.
You can start off really inexpensive, but then when you want to take it that one step further and just make your ideas, your art journals, your pages, your cards, your art sparkle, it's really great to have the better supplies.
The joy with the Copics, though, is they're permanent, correct?
They are permanent. When they're done, they're permanent. They will fade over time because there is a dye ink suspended in it, but for most part, it's permanent, and you can use it on top of a glossy surface too. So even that matte medium, you could use it on top of after it's completely dry.
And are they, they don't smell bad. I didn't smell it at all.
No, they are alcohol based, but no.
Not like a Sharpie.
No odor. No, not like a Sharpie at all. So we've used quite a few different types of markers today. Well, the dye-based markers, the opaque white marker. Oh, you finished it. Excellent.
Do you have, I was going to show the shading.
Oh, the little gray pet marker there, the blue one?
Yeah, I'll just use this one. Oh,
right.
I can't do that. Use that one. You have a light gray?
This one right here?
Yeah, let me just check it over here. So I like to have my letters pop off the page. And so to do that, I will just add a little bit of a shadow on one side of my letters.
Oh,
you have to
really
do
neat.
it on the same side each time. Because if you get all willy-nilly, then it won't look like they're jumping off the page. And it's kind of a challenge to do this upside down.
That looks really cool. Let's hold that up to the camera. We only got a couple of minutes left, so let's give you a little shot there. Excellent. And then let's just go over again. So we've got a little bit of distress markers, Tombow markers, they're all the same.
They're
different
water-based. Basically, they're a marker with two tips, a brush tip and a writing tip.
And you use those, if you want to watercolor with them, you use them with the archival ink.
Correct.
If you're going to use the Copic markers, you're going to use those with the Memento, the dye-based ink. And then you have the pit markers in the big brush style. We do have pit markers with the India ink with just writing. But the big brush style, you can use it as the stamping ink and as the color inside.
And you can use, with the pit pens, you could use other markers. And it doesn't matter what stamping ink, if you're using them to color in, it doesn't matter what stamping ink you use.
Great. Well, thanks again for coming in.
Thanks
and it
for
was
having
great
me.
to have you and to color with you today. Thanks.
Drownings are a leading cause of death for young children. Simple safety steps are the best way to prevent these tragedies. Make sure kids learn how to swim. Always watch them in and around water. Properly fence all pools and stay away from drains. Consider the steps you take, then add a few more. Because you never know which pool safety step will save a life until it does. Simple steps save lives. To learn some new ones, visit poolsafely.gov.
DAV stands behind America's veterans to make their transition back home easier with free services and help getting the benefits they've earned. Help us fulfill the promise to our men and women who served. Go to DAV.org to learn more.
We had a lot of fun today with markers and Catherine Scanlon. From learning about dye-based markers and water-based markers and solvent-based markers and how to use them with the different types of inks and your stamping, and even from creating a new technique about stamping with the same color and coloring it in, we had a ton of fun. On the next episode of Keep Creating, we'll go over a couple of the new product from the Paper Art Show. Until then, keep creating.